Berlin Marathon, 2018, kilometer 30. The lead pack is still tight. 8 runners, maybe 9. Some of the fastest marathoners alive, all locked in, all believing they still have a chance. Then Eliud Kipchoge does something. Or rather, he does nothing dramatic at all. No surge, no sprint, no moment where the cameras catch him pulling away. But by kilometer 35, the gap is open. By kilometer 40, the race is already over. He crosses the line in 2 hours, 1 minute, 39 seconds. A new world record. And the men behind him are not just beaten, they look confused. Because what just happened wasn't an attack. It wasn't an explosion of speed. It was something stranger, something quieter. It was inevitability. This is the question that haunted an entire generation of legends. Bekele, Mo Farah, Kipsang, Kamworo, Gebreselassie, men who had broken world records of their own, men who had stood on Olympic podiums, and every single one of them, at some point, looked at Kipchoge and realized the same thing. You weren't racing him to win, you were racing him to find out how far behind you would finish. If no human is limited, what does that make the rest of them? To understand how terrifying Kipchoge was, you have to start with the man who came closer than anyone, Kenenisa Bekele. On the track, Bekele wasn't just great. He was a phenomenon. 3 Olympic gold medals, 5 world championship titles, world records in the 5,000 meters, and the 10,000 meters that still stand today, more than 15 years later. For a decade, Bekele was the king of distance running. Then he stepped up to the marathon, and he ran straight into Eliud Kipchoge, Berlin, 2019. Bekele crossed the finish line in 2 hours, 1 minute, 41 seconds. 2 seconds. That was the gap between Bekele and Kipchoge's world record. 2 seconds over 26 miles, closer than any human had ever come to that mark, and still not enough. The two of them met 5 times in the marathon. Bekele lost every single one of those races where Kipchoge finished. London 2016, London 2018. The pattern never broke. And here is what makes it terrifying. Bekele had the talent. He had the speed. He had the resume. What he didn't have was Kipchoge's consistency. Bekele dropped out of marathons. He battled injuries. He had bad days. Kipchoge didn't. Speaking to Olympics.com, Bekele said about Kipchoge's record run, quote, "I am happy when I see Eliud Kipchoge run that time. It motivates all athletes." 2 seconds. That was the distance between history and almost history. Bekele got closer than anyone alive, and it still wasn't close enough. If Bekele was the rival who came closest, Mo Farah was the rival with the deadliest weapon. On the track, nobody finished a race like Mo Farah. 4 Olympic gold medals, 6 world championship titles. Across the 5,000 meters and the 10,000 meters, Farah built his entire career on one terrifying skill, the kick. You let Mo Farah hang around in the final lap, and he would destroy you in the last 200 meters. It happened to the best runners on earth, over and over again. Here is the strange part. On the track, Farah and Kipchoge raced 14 times between 2006 and 2012. Farah won 3 of the last 4 meetings. He had the measure of Kipchoge in a stadium. Then they both moved to the marathon, London. 2018. Farah lined up against Kipchoge in his second ever marathon. He hung on for as long as he could. He finished 3rd. Kipchoge won. The kick never came. The race was decided long before the final mile. Speaking to NBC Sports before the 2019 London Marathon, Farah said about Kipchoge, quote, "Right now, he's beyond anyone else." He compared him to a heavyweight boxing champion, untouchable, top of the division. This is what made Kipchoge so frightening to a finisher like Farah. You can't outkick a man who never lets the race come down to a kick. Farah's greatest weapon, the one that won him 4 Olympic golds, the one no track runner could survive, in Kipchoge's marathon, it was useless. Before Kipchoge owned the marathon, another Kenyan owned it. Wilson Kipsang, Berlin. 2013. Kipsang ran 2 hours, 3 minutes, 23 seconds. A new world record, 15 seconds faster than the previous mark. He was the king of the road. Olympic bronze medalist from London 2012. London marathon champion. New York marathon champion. The fastest man in human history over 26 miles. His record lasted 12 months. In 2014, his countryman Denis Kimetto broke it in Berlin. Kipsang was no longer the world record holder, but he was still one of the favorites in any race he entered. Then he met Kipchoge. London, 2015. The two best marathoners in the world, head-to-head. Kipsang ran 2 hours, 4 minutes, 47 seconds. A time that 2 years earlier would have been world record pace. Kipchoge crossed the line 5 seconds ahead. Speaking to NBC Sports after that race, Kipsang admitted, quote, "The last 3 miles, Kipchoge was a bit stronger. That was the polite version. The real version was simpler. Kipsang had pushed." Kipchoge had answered, and the answer was always the same. Now look at the timelines. Kipsang's world record stood for 12 months. Kimetto's world record stood for 4 years. Kipchoge's world record stood for 4 years too, and nobody from his generation came close to breaking it. Kipsang didn't just lose to Kipchoge. He watched an entire era of marathon runners get rewritten, the records they fought for, the times they bled for. Suddenly, footnotes. Most of the world saw Kipchoge for 3 or 4 hours on race day. Geoffrey Kamworor saw him every day for over a decade. Kamworor is no ordinary observer. 2-time New York City marathon champion, 3-time world half marathon champion, a world record holder in his own right at the half marathon distance. He trains in Kaptagat, Kenya, 8,200 feet above sea level. Mornings start at 5 or 6 o'clock. 3 days a week of intense work. The same camp, the same coach, the same routine that built Eliud Kipchoge. And here is what Kamworor saw that the rest of the world never could. Kipchoge didn't peak for races. He didn't have a special gear he switched on in Berlin or London. He didn't suddenly become Kipchoge when the cameras turned on. The man you saw cross the finish line in 2 hours, 1 minute, 39 seconds, that man existed every single morning at altitude on a dirt road in Kaptagat. No off days, no breakdowns, no drift in discipline. Speaking to Amne about life in that training camp, Kamworor said, quote, "You have to believe what you've done in training." That sentence sounds simple. It isn't. For Kipchoge's rivals, it was the most terrifying thing imaginable. They were waiting for him to slip, to have a bad week, to show one crack. Kamworor watched for 10 years. The crack never came. You cannot beat a man by waiting for his weakness, if his weakness does not exist. To understand the final piece of why Kipchoge was terrifying, you need a witness from another era, Haile Gebrselassie. Before Kipchoge, before Bekele, before any of them, Gebrselassie was the king. 2 Olympic gold medals in the 10,000 meters, 4 world championship titles, and from 2007 to 2013, he held the marathon world record himself with a time of 2 hours, 3 minutes, 59 seconds. In 2011, scientists and coaches discussed the idea of a sub-2-hour marathon as if it belonged to another generation. Maybe their grandchildren would see it. Maybe. 8 years later, on October 12th, 2019, in Vienna, Eliud Kipchoge crossed a finish line at 1 hour, 59 minutes, 40 seconds. It wasn't ratified as an official world record. It didn't matter. The barrier was gone. And Gebrselassie, the man who once defined the limit, watched it happen. Speaking to Olympics.com ahead of the 2020 London Marathon, Gebrselassie said about Kipchoge, quote, "When I think about Kipchoge, he is something different. Coming from Bekele, that's respect. Coming from Mo Farah, that's a warning. Coming from Haile Gebrselassie, the man who held the marathon world record for 6 years, the man whose name was distance running for 2 decades, that sentence means something else entirely. It means a generation knew it had been surpassed. Gebrselassie wasn't talking about a faster runner. He was talking about a different definition of what a human being could do. And once that definition exists in the world, every other runner has to live inside it. So what made Eliud Kipchoge so terrifying? It wasn't just the speed. It was never just the speed. Bekele had the talent. He came within 2 seconds of Kipchoge's world record and still couldn't break it. Mo Farah had the deadliest finishing kick in track history. In Kipchoge's marathon, he never got to use it. Wilson Kipsang once held the world record himself. Kipchoge erased him and erased the era he belonged to. Geoffrey Kamworor trained beside Kipchoge for 10 years, watching every morning, every workout, every meal. He waited for the crack to appear. It never did. And Haile Gebrselassie, the man who once defined the limit of marathon running, looked at Kipchoge and called him something different. Not a faster runner, a different kind of human standard. This is the truth those legends understood. Kipchoge wasn't terrifying because he was faster. He was terrifying because he eliminated every variable: speed, discipline, consistency, mental edge. He took every weapon his rivals had ever used to win, and he made each one useless. When that happens, winning is no longer a question of strategy or talent. Against most runners, you race to win. Against Kipchoge, you race to delay the inevitable.